Ready? Okay. Hi, I'm Olivia and I am 11 years old. I am non-binary, which means I have no gender. I am just me.
My name is Riley. I don't identify as male or female, but I'm not in the middle either. I don't identify on the gender binary. I'm just me.
I'm Dakota. People often ask if I'm a boy or a girl. I'm neither. I'm off the gender spectrum.
Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm gender non-binary and queer. And I want to change the world.
Tonight on Four Corners, we take you into the lives of people like me, people who don't conform to gender norms. And I ask, why does it matter to you if I don't identify as a boy or a girl?
Well, the world basically evolves around boxes, and those two boxes are a male box and a female box. And if you are born with a female body, you have to be a female. If you are born with a male body, you have to be a male, and you've been put into that box. And they try to people may try to duct tape the box so then you'll stay like that, but I cut the duct tape and I jumped into my own box.
2 years ago, Olivia was diagnosed with gender dysphoria and has now been assessed as not being on the binary and does not identify as either boy or girl. Just watch your fingers. It's hard to know when Olivia started changing in the sense of, not changing, but questioning identity, which I remember us having a conversation when you were 5 or 6, Olivia. I think it was 5 or 6. You were saying to me, Mummy, I don't think I'm a girl. And I said, what do you mean? And you said, that won't got cut through that, Olivia. I'll give you a small bit. There you go, swap. Do that. I said, what do you mean? And you said, I don't fit in this body. And then you said to me, I therefore must be a boy because I don't feel like I'm a girl. So, Olivia, you didn't want to be a boy, did you?
No.
Well, at first you did, I thought.
Yeah, but I don't want to be one.
I know now, but when you were that age, why did I think you thought you might want to be a boy?
Probably because I only knew 2 genders.
We're done with this. It's not something you take lightly. If I had a choice, maybe it'd be easier not to have a child that's non-binary or gender diverse. At the end of the day, it's not something I asked for. It's not something I wanted, but it's what Olivia is. Two years ago, we went to the GP and talked to the GP who didn't know anything really about what to do next and referred us to the Women's and Children's Hospital.
Oh, fantastic, Olivia. Yeah, of course.
I have another one.
Olivia, one of the young people that I see identifies as non-binary. The assessment of a young person who's non-binary is extremely rigorous. It's really important that I gain a really good understanding of the whole of this young person's life and their functioning and their identity and where that fits into their life for them.
Come this way, guys. How are you?
I've got 65 clients open to me at the moment and 9 of them identify as non-binary. One way of describing being non-binary is neither male nor female or neither woman or man.
Just round to the left here today, everyone.
So some people would describe that as agender or no gender. Other people would describe to me that they feel both male and female and that the, degree of male or femaleness may vary on any day and that they may be reflected in their gender expression.
So you had to go to school for half the day today, Olivia?
Yeah.
I think it's really important to ask the young person themselves what being non-binary means for them, because in my experience it can be different for different young people.
In term 1, I did tell someone. They were also new. And I think she still like remembers. Like she asked me, since everyone thought I like was transgender, and she actually came up and asked me, and I told her no, and I told her I was actually non-binary.
I get asked quite a lot about why we are seeing so many more gender diverse and in particular non-binary young people coming out now. I don't think it's a new identity or a new type of being a person. I think non-binary people have existed for as long as we have.
It takes less than a minute.
But that up until more recently, there hasn't been the language for it.
I'll do that whenever I can.
And we're still working hard with our grandparents and things, aren't we? And your friends around, I guess, different situations.
The people that you've told, are they getting it right or making it? For Olivia, Olivia's pronoun is Olivia. There are no pronouns in our language that fit for Olivia. So Olivia identifies as Olivia, not as they, them, she, her, or he, him, as Olivia. And this has been quite challenging for Olivia's family and peers to get their head around. I wondered how it's going for you in terms of people using Olivia rather than pronouns.
So
Be nice to me, please.
And remember, before maybe you answer, that what I always say to young people, I see Olivia, is easier for me because I meet you and I say, what name should I be using and what pronoun should I be using? And for you, it's Olivia and Olivia. But mum and dad have known you for a long time with a pronoun rather than Olivia, if they try and cut them a bit of slack, because it is hard to change. So with that caveat, now you can answer.
well, Mum's doing like better.
Yeah.
You're getting better.
Am I? Good, thanks.
My nanny is really good.
Wow, is that mum's mum or dad's mum?
Mum's mum.
So Nanny's doing really well.
Yeah, my mum's side are probably doing the better than my dad's side.
And what about dad? How's dad going with it?
He doesn't talk much, so I don't know.
Dad's the quieter one.
I'm the quieter one,
is that right? Yeah.
As parents, Jane and I weren't too surprised, I don't think, that Olivia was on the gender spectrum. I don't think we quite knew what the gender spectrum was, but we knew that Olivia was not conventional.
They have boy words and like girl words.
Of course, yeah.
There's lots of questions, and in my work I'm quite analytical, and I want to analyse things and look at pathways and try and find the solution, and there's no nice clear-cut solution. So in many respects you do just have to roll with it. I do worry what the future holds, but if I feel that if Olivia was to try and live as a girl or as a boy, that Olivia wouldn't be true to Olivia.
I told her to just call me by my name, but like, I guess she sort of ignored that part. Like,
Having a child come out as gender diverse is often quite confronting and challenging for the parent. And a number of parents I see would have never even heard the word non-binary before their child tells them that this is how it is for me.
Nana's being very protective of you because Nana doesn't want people to think, differently about you. You're still Olivia, like we keep on saying. Yes, you might look a little bit different.
And how do you feel when they don't get it right, Olivia? Gender dysphoria is the distress that a person experiences when their birth assigned gender does not match their gender identity. For some people, it's intense distress, dislike around their body. So many young people I see are unable to look at their body, can't look in the mirror. When in the bathroom, for example, some people showering is incredibly difficult. It's not uncommon for young people I see to avoid having showers or to shower with their underwear on. Commonly, their genitals, their chest area, sometimes their face are areas of significant distress and dysphoria. I have seen a 4-year-old who got a pair of scissors to try to cut her penis off. I have seen young people who have cut their breasts.
it's very obvious that you're different.
Yeah.
Though it doesn't need to be obvious that you're different, you just need to be accepted.
Any questions, Olivia, before we begin?
I wonder what you first think when you see me. Perhaps it's something about my curls. People often mention them. Or, what a dapper little man. In my experience, one of the first things people do is assume I'm a boy or aren't sure whether I'm a girl or a boy. We do this to everyone. My style had to evolve.
Being non-binary is not a choice, man. Oh gosh, it's this really innate feeling you have for a very long time, and you don't know what to do with it because no one's told you what to do with it. You just know that you're not either of the things everyone's told you to be. And so, you know, you're questioning in your head, like, what am I then? And that feeling, like in a 10-year-old, the feeling of what am I, that is not a choice.
I didn't think of myself as a boy, but anything that was identified as female felt uncomfortable to me.
So many people come up to me after and go, oh, that was a great talk. My child's a bit like you. You know, I just never would have thought to question their gender identity before. I'm going to go talk to them about it and see how they're feeling.
Recently, when I travelled overseas, I noticed a trend.
And it was just this moment of absolute affirmation that I'd done the right thing by doing this talk, that I was completely valid and accepted as a human, and that there was nothing wrong with me.
Because I seem like a very flamboyant or even girly boy. Anyway.
Brian and I were way more nervous than Audrey, and I think we thought there may be some backlash even amongst that audience.
I'm Audrey, and if we're talking biology, I'm female. But I feel that it's more complex than that.
Audrey, I think, has an ability to talk about gender in a way that's very personal. It's very much talking about their experience. And so it's very hard to attack someone's own experience, I think.
So strangers sit uncomfortably while I tell you how my gender ranges. From day to day, sometimes neutral, sometimes fluid, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce. It doesn't make me a boy, but it doesn't mean that I'm realigning, and I don't want to be redefining what it means to be a girl, because I'm not a girl. So it does matter to me.
We have to write a comedy script for English that uses comedy devices. So double entendre, I know. Absurdity.
When people ask me how old Audrey is, I always say Audrey's 14 going on 35. Audrey's kind of an older soul inside a younger body, I think. Like they're quite emotionally stable and calm and together, which is funny when Audrey has teenage moments, because of course Audrey's a 14-year-old person, so there are 14-year-old moments.
They just randomly say it into their blank phone and then hit a recording. So stupid. It's not expression. It's not about, oh, I don't want to wear dresses. I mean, I don't want to wear dresses personally, but that's not part of my identity. My identity is purely that I have this innate feeling, which is I am not a girl and I'm not a boy. So I must be something else. They want flip-flops.
Terribly Japanese.
I'm sorry, I can't do a French accent. So
A bit of a learning curve, I guess, from my point of view. It's like, well, what does that mean necessarily? Like, what does that mean? You can be a boy or a girl, or you're not a girl or you're not a boy, and it just kind of navigating all of that territory and figuring out what that means for Audrey in particular, because now I understand that everyone kind of identifies differently, even within that kind of non-binary space.
And so they faint. They faint with a ha ha ha.
Wow. There was a period when Audrey first started to reject the idea of being a girl or being a woman, where I felt confronted because I'd been raised as a feminist. I'd been raised to believe that my femaleness was not a limitation, was something that that would never stop me from doing anything in the world, and that I should, in fact, I could in fact choose to be whoever I wanted to be and still be a woman. And I wanted to express that to Audrey, that in fact, you can look however you want, you can behave however you want, you don't have to reject being female. Now, Audrey's taught me a lot about gender and about those ideas, and Audrey has a very strong belief that that your female body does not make you a woman.
Piece of writing / work.
Oh, I think they're here.
can get that. Hi! Come in. Nice to see you again.
Hey, Audrey.
Hi. How are you?
Yeah, good.
That's good. Come through. Olivia and I went to the same primary school, and I'm 3 years older. Have a seat if you like. So how are you? How's school?
All right. I just moved school
Yeah?
because I'm in year 5.
My school's a lot bigger now, and so there's a lot more people like me. Is that the same for you?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's lots of. It's like my school's way bigger, but I don't even know anyone else who is like me there.
Yeah, right, okay. Is there like an LGBT club at your school now?
No.
No, nothing.
Nothing really.
Gosh.
At primary school, I never told my teachers really. It was only the principal who like half knew but didn't really know because they sort of like ignored it, sort of. Ignored the fact.
How's like bathrooms at your school? Because
I get to go to the unisex/handicap bathroom, so
yeah, and the teachers like let you do that. So I generally just go to the female toilets, which sucks, but they're close to my classes, so that's good, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, I really don't like them. I don't like the toilets at my school, and I'm trying to get it changed, but it's not gonna happen very soon, I don't think. Kind of sucks, you know, you go in and you just don't want anyone to see you in there. Or if they do, you want it to be a friend so that like someone recognizes you, so that the other people who are strangers to you in the bathroom don't go, oh, that's a girl or a boy, because that's not comfortable.
That's their perception.
Man, bathrooms, not fun.
I mean, I have the argument. At home, do you have a female bathroom? Do you have a male bathroom? No,
Yeah.
you just have the one bathroom. So why isn't that in public?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. A lot of people get scared about like gender diverse people going in bathrooms or trans people. To be honest, I don't get it. I mean, it just doesn't seem right. They're still people, and if they identify it as that gender, like I'm not gonna go look over your stalls at your like kid going to the loo. I'm just not going to.
No.
That's not what I'm in there
mind your own
for.
business.
My school's a lot bigger now, and so there's a lot more people like me.
Everything changed for me when I was 19, was when I first started to think about it. I started to kind of realize, okay, I'm not a girl, I'm not a woman, I'm not a man, what am I? And it's been a really challenging journey working this out, because it would be so much easier to just say, all right, I'll just be a man, just flip from one side to the other, because the world is so binary and everyone wants to fit you in a box. And even like I want to fit myself in a box, because that's how we're raised to think, that's how society works. So the idea of being something that wasn't male or female was very, very difficult to wrap my head around, and obviously difficult for everyone around me. And it's still something I'm coming to terms with, and I'm learning more about myself all the time.
Your imagination never ceases to amaze me.
I started the theatre company when I was 19.
Poetically wearing a violet dress.
And isn't it something?
Theatre is a way of showing the world who you are. I would say that theatre does enable me to be more comfortable in my gender identity. It's a good method thing. Because you can it's like they're watching. Everyone in this industry is very open about that kind of thing. I was a big musical theatre kid. I always had lead roles in the musicals, and I was always playing the female roles. I played Patrice in 13 the musical. I played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. I played the narrator in Joseph in The Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. Oh, my biggest one was Kate in Avenue Q. It often felt odd to be playing over feminine characters, even back then when I didn't know my own identity. It caused me so much anxiety.
They said, what time are you playing? Thank you for the extra skin. He said, keep the 355 because this triple latte was on him.
I remember once I was playing a role and they had to get me to strut, and I just started crying because I was like, I can't do this. That's not my body. And it was very, very upsetting.
And now I wanna see him fly.
I think, yeah, it's always been in the back of my mind that that was just not me. That wasn't who I was. Because there was always so much missing and I just didn't understand what was going on. I just thought I was a very sad person.
The next service is all stops to Newcastle Beach.
Doors closing. Please stand clear.
When I was 13 or 14, I changed my name because I didn't feel like the one that I was given was right for me. I would hear people call me by that name, and sometimes I wouldn't even respond because it just didn't click in my head like my name does now. When I started coming out, I originally wanted to keep it on a very down-low level because I was being bullied a lot for who I was, and I didn't really want to deal with that. It was mostly in high school. I would be called names all the time. People would talk about being behind my back constantly. And, like, I've been shoved around before.
Just trying to make it so it's not too low down.
A lot of people want to be fitting into this box, and I was so far out of that box that I didn't know where else to turn to. Oh, so I'm doing it like half by half. So throughout my journey, when I started thinking about who I was, I have definitely gone to some very dark places. And it got to a point where, you know, self-harm was in the picture, suicide thoughts were in the picture. And I finally figured out, like, you know, maybe I'm not safe and maybe I do need to say something to someone. A couple of things that helped me were just finding people who were like me. Obviously, I'm not going to find my exact carbon copy, but I found people who are also non-binary.
Do you want to do like the three in the corner or something like that?
Yeah.
Like that.
So we are making a cake for the after party tonight. We're trying to decorate it so that it looks a bit more barefoot themed, and this is our little logo, which is a green bear paw print. Because we're going to have an opening night party in the foyer with the audience to celebrate. We've been friends for about 7 years. Dakota was a lot younger than me at school. Oh, the steppy.
Get it?
I get it.
Dakota is an absolute trailblazer, and I owe a lot of my identity to the fact that they could come out first and they were there being that representation, because if I hadn't seen that representation growing up, I still might not even identify this way, because it wasn't something that I would have understood or even knew existed.
You stack them up enough, you'll get a ladder tolerance.
That's true.
Dakota came out as non-binary many, many years before I did. And growing up, they had such a hard time, even in the theatre industry, because they were ahead of their time, and not many people in Newcastle understood that at all.
Why don't you paint the town, and all that jazz?
And I remember people would say things like, you know, oh, what gender are they today? And just be really, really awful about it. And I remember that, and I remember being scared to identify that way because of how hard it had been for Dakota. I remember thinking, oh, everyone was so awful about that. And I know that so many opinions have changed since then, and all the people who probably said stuff like that back then are very open and accepting now.
Let's put that somewhere. So just pass you.
The wait list at the Women's and Children's Hospital for kids like Olivia has blown out to 12 to 18 months, and this is very distressing both to families and the children. It's concerning because waiting is probably the biggest fear that these kids have as their bodies start changing.
Do you want to sit down? Do you want to take your shoes off? We're going to do your height and your weight first.
Part of Olivia's questioning about Olivia's self was about some of Olivia's physical appearance. Olivia didn't like what was happening, and I think part of it was saying, well, I don't want to have breasts. And a lot of young people say that, but Olivia felt that breasts weren't part of Olivia's body.
Looking straight ahead.
Yeah.
156.5. I think you've stopped growing. Olivia is currently receiving puberty blockers, and this was after a very long and considered process with extensive and in-depth psychiatric evaluation for both Olivia and her family. Okay. All done. Can I get you to lie down?
This is medication that's given to Olivia in form of an injection every 12 weeks so that Olivia doesn't go through the puberty of Olivia's assigned birth gender. There are two main reasons for offering puberty suppression to a young person who is gender diverse or who has gender dysphoria, is to decrease the distress associated with the gender dysphoria while they have the time to continue to grow up a bit.
So you've got the kids that are sort of settled there, but plenty of... So the benefit of a puberty blocker is that it gives a young person time to explore how they express their gender identity. When you stop taking a puberty blocker, the effects are generally reversible. And how are you feeling now that you're on the injections? Because it's been a little while now.
I'm less anxious about my body, and...
So you're just feeling more relaxed, more yourself.
Yeah.
That's good.
I think we've had 3 injections so far.
Yeah.
This will be the 4th? I think so.
Yeah. The injections take a long time and sting, but I'm just happy that I get them because I can just be me and I don't have to worry about my body.
So it sounds like it's the right thing for you at the moment. I think that once you've met a young person who's gender diverse and you can see how they're so articulate about how they identify themselves and they've gone through such a process really to get to me, you see them at their follow-up appointment after starting treatment and they're calm, they're feeling so much more settled in themselves that you know you're doing the right thing for that person. Well, that's important because it's your body.
We were informed about the risks of Olivia going on puberty blockers and that being about reduced bone density, but we believe that this was a low risk against Olivia's mental health and well-being.
I guess the next important thing is that we look at how your bones are going and make sure they're staying nice and healthy.
I've booked in that.
All medication has side effects and risks, and puberty suppression is no different. The biggest ongoing risk with puberty suppression, the potential for a lower bone density as you grow up and therefore a higher risk of osteoporosis in adulthood. The paediatricians who prescribe the Leukerin do monitor that, and we're aware if it's becoming more of an issue for a particular young person. So there are some concerns about a young person staying on puberty suppression for a long period of time.
Can you open your mouth to get tongue for There is some criticism around the treatment of gender diverse young people. From a paediatric or paediatrician's point of view, we want to be doing everything that we can to support a young person so that they don't have adverse mental health outcomes, that they're able to live their life as they choose without harming anyone else. That's a good teacher, isn't it?
I don't know what type of puberty I want, or I don't really know what I want with my body. I don't want female puberty, but I also don't want male puberty. I just want to be me.
How are you feeling about an injection tomorrow?
Okay. I'm only 11. And I'll probably be coming off the blockers when I'm 16. I have 5 years to think about this. There's no rush with this. No point in rushing anyway.
As a parent, you're very mindful of what your kid needs. And in this case, puberty blockers was something we believed Olivia needed. This is a decision that parents make very carefully with clinicians, with doctors who know best, and we are guided through this carefully. It's not an easy decision. It's not made lightly, and it's done with a lot of thought. If I was to disregard Olivia's thoughts and how how Olivia's feeling, I'd lose my child. I'd lose my child earlier. That's the thought that goes through my head, that by saying this is a fad, but this is child abuse, is actually not the reality, because the reality is I could have no child if I didn't respond to what I was hearing from my child, and that the need to go into puberty blockers is actually saving her life, because Olivia can be who Olivia wants to be. Sorry. There are definitely strong critics to this area who would argue that the work I do is child abuse in allowing young gender diverse people and non-binary people to socially transition, to medically transition. In fact, not allowing someone to socially transition or to medically transition, not supporting them in their gender identity, is a high chance of them having significant mental health problems, including high rates of deliberate self-harm, high rates of suicidality and suicide attempts. That, to me, is much more abusive than supporting someone in their affirmed gender.
You know, when I was talking to Olivia the other day, and Olivia said they were on puberty blockers, and I found that really interesting, because I don't know that I would have ever taken that step.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know that I needed to at any point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you think back before puberty hit, how you feel?
A lot of people do identify as non-binary and want to change their body to fit what they see as their ideal body. And I think that that is great, amazing, go for it. But I also think that you don't need to change your body to be valid as a non-binary person. You don't need to be androgynous to be valid as a non-binary person.
Then the notion that gender is a separate thing from biological physicality and biological sex is new-ish to a lot of people.
I think having a female body and not identifying as a woman or a girl does confuse people. But I think that if it confuses people enough that they come up and talk to me about it and learn something, then that's brilliant. And I love my body the way it is. You guys end up with half an avocado.
The truth is that we have encouraged Audrey to go down the non-binary path, because that seemed to be the place that Audrey was the most happy and comfortable and themselves. You know, I think the other option would be that Audrey would be sad and uncomfortable and potentially even ashamed, and that seems like a really terrible result. So we have encouraged Audrey to find a way to express themselves and to try and express to us how they feel about things. Yeah, so yeah, we've definitely encouraged that. I don't think that we, indoctrinated Audrey or pushed Audrey to be anything. Audrey could have been anything they wanted.
I mean, we've encouraged them to be themselves.
Yeah.
And that, it was not, as a person we love and live with and have done for the last 14 years. And then a couple of years ago, Audrey went, and this is what my
self is.
Yeah, this is how I call myself now. It's like, well, you didn't change at that point. You're still yourself. It's just there's a new title for it. Yeah. So have we encouraged Audrey to be non-binary? No, we've encouraged Audrey to be whoever the hell they are, and that's who they are. So that's cool. Okay.
Oh yeah, thank you.
What's missing? What did we have the other night that was super good on this?
So
I'm getting excited. I'm like getting very excited now.
We share a lot of the same friends, so I think that's kind of how we became closer. I remember Riley used to take us for like little drives at night, and we would just kind of talk about all of our fun little problems that we were having about like dysphoria and all that stuff. And
Because I can drive.
yes, they can drive and I cannot. And we would always kind of just talk about, I remember when they first started testosterone, we were very excited, and then I did, and then I was getting my surgery, and then they were getting their surgery.
I remember before I had my consultation to get my surgery, I was absolutely terrified, and I called Dakota and I was like, we need to catch up so I can talk to you about surgery.
So we've been through most of our journeys together, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, just like a little bit delayed from each other.
Yeah.
Like, I got hormones before you, then you got
And then I
surgery,
got surgery before
me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need a knife to slice that. Where's the knife?
The non-binary people I've worked with over the years, some it's really important to have some external hormones. Some testosterone might be right for them. I've worked with other people where they didn't want any gender-affirming hormones, but perhaps had, if they were assigned female at birth, had significant dysphoria from their chest and really wanted top surgery, so creation of a male or non-female chest, but didn't necessarily want hormones.
That will do this. So medically transitioning was an absolute necessity for me. I know it's not for everyone, but for me, that was something I did need to do. I was in a very, very dark place. I was suicidal, and I do think that if I hadn't been allowed to transition, then I definitely would have taken my life, because that was something that I just couldn't keep doing. I couldn't keep living that lie. I couldn't keep pretending. No one is transitioning just for the fun of it. No one would transition because it's a fad, because it's actually an awful experience. It's harrowing, it's horrible, it's second puberty with menopause at the same time. It's not something that I would choose to do. It's not something that anyone would willingly do, because there's so many awful side effects, and just generally in society, you get ostracized for being this thing. So why would you ever choose to go down that path? That's not something that is a choice. It's not a choice. No.
Oh, I got the spot.
Comfy boy.
Got the spot.
I definitely think that my transition was so important to me that mental health would have probably gotten the better of me if I didn't transition. Testosterone makes me feel like I'm finally in the body that I was meant to be in.
And then you just pull them right back.
I think non-binary is different for absolutely everybody.
Not what you wanted.
For me personally, I saw it as a journey of taking testosterone and getting top surgery, but I've never thought of any other surgeries to affirm who I was.
I don't really have days where I feel more masculine or more feminine. I just always feel neither.
Oh, were you going to anyway? Yes!
I know a lot of people do kind of alternate between those things, and it's a big mix. And I am still exploring that. I'm exploring that identity.
People have like assumed that I'm a girl until I open up my mouth, and then they're just like, oh wait, you're a boy. Or sometimes people assume I'm a boy, and then they like see how I act, and then they're like, oh, I'm not sure. But for the most part, the reactions that I get are just, I have no idea. Because, you know, I do have feminine features sometimes, but my voice is deeper. But sometimes I act very feminine, but still, you know, walk like a man or something like that. And I think my identity is still kind of changing every day. I still don't completely know what non-binary means to me, but I know that it fits.
Okay. Oh, I'll give you a hug. I demand.
My parents have been supportive ever since I started to come out.
Newcastle stage crew, Dakota Dunlap. I know.
My mom started researching a lot of it, so she was, you know, trying to get the lingo correct and, you know, doing all that. And my dad was very accepting.
I've saved every single plate.
I still have the Joseph one upstairs. I still have...
I think because Dakota is transitioning now and able to exhibit characteristics that fits who they are more willing to step outside, to be more social, to get on stage. Because before they were hiding behind big hoodies and clothes and in their room. And socially, I think it allows these people that are not comfortable with who they are, supposed to be and who they want to be to move outside, to get back out into the world.
I go to Glenunga International High School. It's a really great school. They really encourage critical thinking.
All right, so everyone listen up. It's great to have you back. So you've got some butcher's paper.
The LGBTIQ+ club at my school is really great. It's a safe space for everyone.
Today we're going to be talking about the HPE curriculum and some improvements it could have added to it in terms of LGBT sexual health and gender identity. Does that sound good? Yeah. I'll give you 10 minutes for that.
As a co-captain, I basically plan the meetings for the term and then facilitate each meeting.
All right, how are we going over here?
We fight for equality in all of the school's policies.
So what have you been taught about yourself and people like you who are LGBT?
It is one of the most open and accepting and loving schools I've ever experienced. It's amazing. All the teachers are super friendly, and often at the start of the year they'll ask you your pronouns and your preferred name. And the school changes emails, names, everything, gender on every form in the blink of an eye.
So do they talk about gender identity at all?
In the Year 8 curriculum, it's not mentioned at all. Gender identities, so transgender, non-binary, everything that is not everything that is not cisgender is not mentioned at all in sexual health. It's just not.
Okay, but some of the community has a culture?
I think that there's been a lot of non-binary people and genderqueer people throughout history who have just never come out because they were just taught that they had to be either female and behave like a woman or male and behave like a man.
That is the end of that question.
I think Audrey's certainly got a really unique perspective on a lot of things, and from Audrey's own experiences as well, there's a lot we can learn. And I can't think of any real challenges we've faced having non-binary students at the school. Certainly uniform, toilets, they're things we negotiate with the students when they arise anyway.
I want you to talk about what is the positive from your experience. We've just gone through all the negative. Was there anything that was positive that you found about the HPE curriculum?
Encourage students to be themselves as well. We've got a lot of school policies that value diversity and harmony in the community, and so that's something that we encourage. I think you can point to the internet and say students have more language to talk about themselves now as well, and they're able to find communities that say, hey, that looks a bit like me. That might be part of how I'm feeling.
I've never known somebody that is so themselves, so much themselves as Audrey is.
I want to change the world. I'm going to say it. Yes, I want to change the world. And so if we can live in a world where gender isn't everything about someone, that would be perfect. Yeah. But empathy kind of is the key there.
I don't know what's going to happen. I hope people will not make rude comments about non-binary people. I hope they just see us as average humans.
See, that looks good now. And it'll look good on stage. The thing is, we have to...
I don't think my gender should ever be open to public debate because it's me. I never understand why people even try to debate my gender because it has nothing to do with them.
So they should look like a little bit fake.
I do think it's really important that society starts moving away from making everything about what gender you are and us all just coexisting as people. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Good. Yeah,
we did it? Okay.
Oh, no, let's try one more now that you've got it all out.
Oh, God.
Hold your look down the lens at the end.
That was really good. So you're doing so well.
I can do that again.
I'm Dakota. Oh, and I forgot everything.
And
Are we done?